Ah yes, the magnificent Trolley Sourbright Crawler, also known as Trollicus brightolus. The worm's captivating neon colour makes it an easy, gummy prey.
Trolley!
It's a surprisingly sour, invitingly chewy, staggeringly snackable species unlike anything else found on this planet.
Eat me!
Delicious. Visit Trolley.com to shop now.
Trolley, eat me!
Welcome, everyone, to the G-Note Podcast. I am your host, as always, Jason Spicy G. Goldman, and I'm a Grammy-winning record producer, arranger, and musician. I've been a music professor at USC for over 22 years, and I am most known for writing and producing music for the iconic crooner Michael Bublé over the past 2 decades. This is a podcast for musicians who want advice and strategies on navigating the music industry. If you're not a musician but a music fan, I promise there's plenty in here for you as well. On this pod, we talk all things music. On today's pod, we are talking about the secrets to being a top-level music producer. Let's go. All right, everyone, what's happening? Thanks so much again for joining us and for lending me your ears for a little bit. I will, again, as with the previous episode, I do want to apologize. I'm still sick. I got like some weird sinus infection. But as I said in the last episode, the show must go on. So here we go. Today we are talking about some of the top characteristics that make a great producer. And before we dive in, let's define what a music producer or a record producer, kind of same thing, actually does. The music producer is one of the most important people in the creation of a record or an album. The music producer, typically works closely with the artist to craft a vision and concept for a record. In essence, they oversee a project, be it, again, a single record or a full album, from start to finish, and in the end are responsible for the final outcome of the project. That means if it's successful, kudos to that music producer and the artist. If it's not successful, it's on the producer. That's how it ends up working out. So again, they're responsible for the outcome of the project. Now, on this pod, in past episodes, we've spoken about 2 different types of music producers, and I referred to them as, I think it was like old school and new school producers. We spoke about old school music producers being people like Quincy Jones, George Martin, and someone like David Foster. These are folks that have incredible vision and are great at putting things together. But they don't really get their hands dirty in terms of technical things. But they hire various people around them to make the level as high as possible. So think of them like kind of like a CEO of a company. For the sake of this episode, however, I'll be referring to the new school producers. The producers that are able to create an entire record by themselves, if they wanted to. They wear many hats, including being an engineer, which is running, the computer audio software, to working with vocals, which is comping and tuning vocals. Comping, if you're not sure, is like a composite, taking the best takes from each piece from each take and creating a composite track, and then tuning the vocals. They also create the backing track, they play instruments, they program, they arrange, mix, and master music. Now, by the way, the old school producers still had a lot of these things. Quincy Jones was a great trumpet player and a great arranger, so I'm not taking anything away from them. They just didn't really do a lot of the hands-on computer engineering software that's done now by most music producers today. One of the big questions I always seem to get asked is, do you need a music producer? And the very short answer is yes. Anytime you can get a partner in crime to help with your vision, you should do it. The producer can bring a song or honestly an artist to life. I mean, think about it. Would the Beatles be the same without, George Martin, or would Michael Jackson be the same without Quincy Jones, or Britney Spears without Max Martin? The answer is probably not. All that to say, music producers are vital to the music ecosystem. So also just a note while I'm thinking about it, not all music producers are created equal. I say this because some people call themselves producers, but they're more like today, like beat makers. Or they may be able to do like one or two things a music producer can do, but honestly, they're not like a really full-fledged music producer. I mean, you see this all the time, right? There's plenty of high schoolers just dragging and dropping beats, and plenty of people just making beats just in their computer and then selling them. Those aren't really music producers, even though they'll probably get that title on a record. They're just really not. I mean, we're talking about a complete music producer here. And by the way, that I mentioned that to say that doesn't mean that those people can't be successful. There's plenty of people that are drag and drop kind of producers. Basically, just for those of you who don't know, drag and drop music producers are basically like people that use already pre-existing things, throw them into the audio software and mix and match them, and then that's the track. They don't really even record vocals or know how to even run a recording session or anything like that. They drag and drop and make a beat, and they could still come up with fantastic things. So I'm not trying to knock them at all, but it's important to differentiate the two. I mean, we even see on releases these days where it says, some of the artists are the producer. Now, I'm not saying this doesn't happen. I'm saying it doesn't happen as much as it says on Wikipedia and Reddit. And what did they actually even do to become a producer? So again, I'm not hating, but the line can be quite thin. I mean, there's stories of, tons of stories out there of people that have production credit and, then people saying that's just not true. I mean, I'm thinking of one of my favorite albums of all time, Lauryn Hill's the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. She's credited as the main producer. I think there's two other producers on that record, but every account from everyone that's ever worked on that record.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. With over 122 million parts, you can make sure your number one ride or die stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply.
Doesn't really understand how that ended up happening. But I'll leave it at that because, again, I'm not trying to hate because I do love that record and it is one of the great records of all time. Okay, let's get into this. Being an effective music producer requires the following. Number one, you need to be, and I'm sure some of you out there know what I'm going to say because I say this in a lot of the episodes, extremely well organized. Again, because you are collaborating with the artist, you want to make sure you have your ducks in a row, so to speak. Know what you can do and what you cannot do. And you should be able to really do the following. Run a session, right, with you and the artist. Create sounds using your audio workstation. Be able to engineer or track vocals. Know basic engineering techniques to get good sound. Know high-level musicians, especially for things you can't do. And know who to call when a song needs a specific sound. Obviously, being able to use your DAW, again, Digital Audio Workstation, which is the audio engineering software, at an extremely high level is critical these days. I don't mean, like I said before, being able to just drag and drop stuff. I mean being able to do all that it takes to run a smooth session without many technical problems. This is another one. You need to be able to work very efficiently, right? One of the key things a producer should be able to do is be competent enough to have the session flow as smoothly as possible. That means your ability to use, the audio software at a high level is a must. We want the workflow to be seamless, and we don't need tech slowing things down. Keep in mind, the technology is a tool. It's not the music. I always feel like sometimes today's producers forget that. It's just a tool. It's not the music. So when you're in a session, you want to make sure that everyone can get their ideas down as quickly as possible, because someone may lose the idea after like 30 seconds or something. You want to be able to get that going. So it's really important that you're able and competent enough to run an efficient session. Remember, this is crucial. When you finish up a session with an artist, by the end of the day or whatever, by the end of the time that your session is up, the song should sound really freaking good. Now, I'm not talking like quote unquote demo, so to speak, but I'm saying really freaking close to being done, right? The idea of a demo is not really a thing so much anymore. Let me give you an example. The way that I started producing for Michael Bublé was because my friend Alan Chang, who was at that time the music director for Bublé and has written, I think he has almost every hit song that Bublé has had. He asked if I'd be interested in writing a song, to pitch for Bublé's new record, because they were getting ready to start a new record. So me and Alan and a friend of ours, Eric Curtis, who's the current bass player in the band and is a freaking phenomenal bass player and producer, we're working on a song. And after we finished working on the song that day, Alan sent the song to Bublé, and it already sounded great, right? I mean, one of the things I had been working on all that time before is trying to get my skill level up. Guess what? The song ended up being a bonus track on the album Nobody But Me, and it's called Take You Away. Here's a little bit of the chorus.
Let's slip out when no one's watching. So baby, let's go. Let me take you away. Let's hit the road. I'll be your escape. Let's travel the globe. We're leaving today. We'll chart the unknown. Let me take you away. We don't need to go far.
Man, I still really love that song, and I can't believe it's not on every vacation ad, like to Hawaii or Vegas or something. It's just so much fun to listen to. I love that throwback retro-y thing. You guys know that. By the way, that song there was literally the first song that I produced for a pitch to Bublé, and it made the album. And that's why your demos need to sound amazing, because you only get one chance to make a first impression. And while, of course, I was friends with Bublé for a while, he had never heard my producing until that point. And that was the first time, and it made the album. Again, it was a bonus track, but it made the record, and it made me money, and it was a blast to produce it. Final note about the demos. It's important to remember, most people do not have vision. I don't mean this to be, mean or negative, but most people can't hear what might be. They only hear what they hear. Hence why your, quote unquote demos need to sound really close to final versions at this point, because everyone has all the software and technology at their fingertips. You do not make assumptions no matter what anyone tells you. Trust me. I've lost a couple of gigs because of this. People will say, "Oh, don't worry, I'm a musician. I can tell what it's going to be," or, "Oh, I can hear past, the demo, so I know it'll be a lot better." Blah blah blah. Don't buy that at all. Don't send it until you think it sounds freaking amazing. The next thing I always tell people: be collaborative. Being a producer is not like a king or queen. It's more like a captain of a ship. You're trying things out that the artist would like to try. Even if you don't think that they will sound good or be a good fit, it's important for ideas to be heard and addressed. You should be good at dealing with people and personalities, which could, again, I know that can be tough for musicians sometimes, but It's really important when you are, trying to work with an artist, right, and collaborate. You can definitely steer people to a choice you think is best, but you really do have to be creative about how you go about, doing that. So make sure that you are wise in how you are handling people with your words. Great producers don't stand in the way of originality. We as producers, we really do have a tough job in that, we're at the service, in essence, of an artist or a record label or a tech company, whatever. And we have to make sure the artist's originality and uniqueness comes through regardless of what we may think personally. Because again, we're at the service of something. We have to keep, in mind that nobody knows what the next hit song will be. Nobody knows, not even the record labels or tech company. No one knows. For example, what do these artists have in common? Katy Perry, the Lumineers, Mumford & Sons, Rihanna, and Drake. They have all had massive hit songs, and they are all in very different styles of music. The point being here, folks, you never know what will be the next hit song. So you have to make sure that when you are working with an artist that you are allowing their originality and creativity and their uniqueness to pull through in the recording, because that may be the next thing. My final tip for being an effective producer, and this ties in with what I was just saying, is to try and have vision. This is the one tip that takes time and usually maturity to learn. Try and see the bigger picture, right? Find a sonic palette or canvas you think is right for an artist. Try and think about the artist, who they are. Try to match the music and sound to that. They may have an idea of sound and, the artist may have an idea of what they want it to sound like. But you can steer the ship towards what you think may work a little bit better, but always keep what they said in the back of your mind. And I know this is an obscure last thing to say, and I'm usually not a person that really loves obscure ideas, or concepts, but it's really the truth. You got to find a way to have vision and see beyond what you like and see what potentially could be. So, to recap everything that we talked about today, the top takeaway should be this: be organized, be efficient, right, with your computer software, be collaborative, and have vision. Remember, the artist in the end is the one that has to sell the music, which means that they have to freaking love the music. And you didn't do your job if they don't love it. And it's the producer's job to make sure they do. All right, folks. That's all the time we have for today's episode. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this pod so you can stay up to date with the new shows I have coming up, giveaways, and more importantly, like we always talk about, concerts. I have some concerts coming up that you're not going to want to miss. Go to the website, jasongoldmanmusic.com, or you can check out my Instagram at SpicyGMusic to see what projects I'm currently working on and to see when I'll be performing next. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Much love. Peace.
Waterproof Records are your unsinkable tunes from the past, present, and future. What's up, everyone? I'm Jacob Givens, the host of Waterproof Records podcast. So what exactly is a waterproof record? Let's go back in time for a moment to when you were a teenager, and it's the first time you heard an album that would change you forever. Whether you're a musician and it was the reason you picked up an instrument and started a band, or if you're just a music lover, it's the album that made you who you are to this day. You'll tell people that your life wouldn't be the same without it. It changed your DNA. So join me on the podcast where I do deep dives on some of the most influential and important albums in my life. And other times I welcome guests on the show to talk about their musical journeys and what they consider to be their waterproof record. It's time to wax nostalgic with Waterproof Records with Jacob Gibbons.